said Deacon LeBou or me?
Hey, everybody.
I said Reverend.
I think she said Reverend Pastor.
Everybody good this evening? We want to welcome you to our SoundMind panel. Y'all know how we do it. We're here every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. And we always encourage you guys. We always have in mind, or often have in mind, the topics that we want to present. But if you have anything you want us to talk about topic-wise, just let us know in the chat, and we'll try to get to those topics. So while you're coming in, as you come in to our SoundMind panel, if you would let us know where you're coming in from, and also share this broadcast. And if you are watching us on the replay, you can also share it.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we it's all about helping people, right, ladies? And we never know when what we say or one thing we say. And you know what I find too, as leaders, I find that when we say real life human things, people are like, you go through that too? It's like, yeah.
Why would I not go through it?
Like, yeah. So it's funny how people resonate with you when you're just kind of real about we all in this together.
Absolutely.
And even if you have a title or you a bishop or whatever, we are all in this together. We're all learning together, and we are all growing together. Hey sis, how are you?
Hi.
I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce your name. Ishka from Stratford. How are you?
Claire, welcome. Keisha.
Y'all come on in as we're going to get started in a few minutes again. I'm Pastor Prescott. My sister's here with me, Deacon LeBou and Reverend Tiffany Smith. We're missing one. He's just finishing a meeting and he'll be in soon, Dr. Reggie Hudson. We make up the SoundMind panel. And again, if you're just coming in, if you would just let us know where you're coming in from. And if you have a topic that you would like us to share at future panels, we will be willing to consider that.
Absolutely.
All right, ladies, y'all ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's go.
So we're going to talk tonight about something we all need. Spiritual rest.
Yes.
Jesus. Rest. We all need that because let's be real, all of us worry. We have anxiety sometimes in varying degrees, and oftentimes we try to do things. Let me speak for myself. I will try to do things in human effort and I get worn out.
Right.
And while I'm doing those things, human effort, I don't realize it. There have been times I said, Val, you know what? Stop tripping. Why are you trying to do this by yourself?
Yeah.
Like, just stop it.
Yeah.
And I've learned recently about myself that I really, this is not going to be flattering. I really do think I can control things.
Imagine that. He only created the world. Like, I think you can handle your problems.
Girl, get off your horse. Like, you can barely control what's going on in your mind and what you're thinking and trying to keep your mind right, all that. How you think you can control of people? And that I got to be honest, that from time to time was a struggle for me because I've always been the responsible person, you know, and I've had to tell myself, especially here lately, that you know what, you can't do this. And I said all of that to say that a lot of times it would leave me feeling anxious. And the way that shows up for me is headache or irritability. And I had to sit back and say, why are you feeling this way? One day my camera went off by accident and I caught a glimpse of my resting face. I was like, who you mad at? So spiritual rest is something that we all need because all of us, I don't care how saved we are, y'all, all of us have moments where we worry, have anxiety, or stressed out and try to do things in our own effort more than we care to admit.
Yes.
Mhm,
Amen to
mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm. You know, my dogs may start to bark. So they see me exit out fast. That's why. But what I find interesting about that is that spiritual rest comes with that spiritual trust. You know, we'll say
Mhm.
spiritual faith, but trust that God can do it. What we talked about. I just had this conversation with my husband not even a half hour ago. Because when we face things, you go, okay, I don't know how this is going to work out, and I know I can't do it on my own. So God, I have really no choice. And I say sometimes God will put you in a spot and go, the only way this is going to work out is if you trust me.
Yep.
Mhm.
When you get, I don't know about you, but I get a pit in my stomach. I'm like, okay, let me just get this together. Okay. And God will say, I need you to stop and let it go and let it
Right.
go. And we were just talking earlier, and it always works out the way it's supposed to work out.
It does.
And things happen where you never thought would happen, and things come together. So that spiritual rest actually for me comes with spiritual trust, and say, okay, God, I trust you. I don't see how this is going to work out, but I know it will work out. So
Right.
I can. What was it when Abraham had a covenant with God, and the birds kept coming, taking the sacrifice, and God said, "Go to sleep."
Mhm. Right. That's the word right there. Go to sleep. That's gonna be
Just
my
go.
next sermon. Go
That's
to
it.
sleep.
Just go
Just
to
go to
sleep.
sleep.
Just go to
Right.
sleep. Really, I got
Right.
this. Leave it alone. Go to sleep. So
Right.
sometimes we just have to get to that point. We do.
Mhm.
We do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think sometimes too, we you said something that kind of made me think about. We really think that we're supposed to have full knowledge of everything.
Mhm.
And we're not.
Right.
We're not. Some things God will share with us and some things he won't. And that's to your point, Tika Labu, that's where the trust comes in.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm. And I love the scripture that talks about God gives his people rest, right?
Yes.
Rest
Yes.
is biblical, is spiritual. And when I think about rest, especially when I'm talking to other people, we use words like peace and just soundness and stillness and the ability to just be able to refresh and things like that. But peace, rest, all that. Sometimes it comes with a fight. Like we have to fight for it.
Yep.
It's not something that just automatically comes. We have to create that, and
Mhm.
recently when I'm talking to some of my clients about that, I remind them, when Jesus came to restore peace with God, he died.
Mhm.
Right. Your expression was like, he died.
He died.
Right. He came
Right.
at a cross. Peace
Right.
comes at a cross. And he came and ruffled feathers and made some
Right.
sacrifices and taught lessons on boundary setting and all those things. And so, I think that when we're trying to just rest, sometimes it means that we have to set boundaries with ourselves, with other people. We have to make time to rest. We have to say no. We have to do things that sometimes feel uncomfortable. To be like, I can't. I'm at my tipping point, and
Right.
part of resilience and moving forward and resting is being able to delegate,
Yep.
Yep.
to be able to schedule your
Yep.
rest,
Right.
to sacrifice other things that you feel like, I gotta do this, I just gotta do it, I gotta keep
Right.
going and hustle and
Right.
hustle and hustle. But sometimes we have to put things on pause, like mute, silence, do
Yeah.
not disturb,
That's true. That
and
is so true.
in order to get that sound rest, to refresh, to re-energize, and
Mhm.
not feel guilty.
And that's it right there.
Mhm.
Not feel guilty. Because I used to think that if somebody came to me, let's just say something's going on, and people are talking about it and they're giving you updates and telling you everything. I used to think, okay, I got to listen to them and I got to take their call and I got to engage in that conversation. This chick right here has learned how to say, I do not have the emotional capacity right now for that. Let's talk tomorrow.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
it's so liberating. It's so thank you,
Mhm.
Dr. Tiffany. Thank you. It's so liberating because there was a time I would just, okay, tell me. And I was drained. So
Mhm.
I've had to learn how to create that emotional boundary to say, you
Mhm.
know what,
Mhm.
let's just give me a minute and we'll pick this
Right.
up tomorrow. So I
Mhm.
think sometimes part of our rest is learning when to say, I can't talk to you right now.
I'm done.
Yep.
I can't
Yep.
talk to you right now. I don't have the bandwidth right now to
Yep.
even listen to this story.
Yep.
Now, there's differences if it's an emergency. We're not saying shut people down when they really, really need you. But sometimes, you know, another thing that I do is if there's something going on, and I'll tell my family or friends, okay, listen, let's just make a pact that we'll talk about it, but not right before we go to sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Because then I find myself all night long tossing and turning and thinking about it. If it's something that can wait until tomorrow, let's make a pact that we'll share those kind of things the next day. So I think that it all goes to us learning how to just rest.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking two things as you were saying, because I put all this stuff in relative to my own life, you know, and people call me controlling from time to time. I don't know why.
You type A ladies.
I don't know where that comes from.
You type A ladies.
Well, it's difficult for someone who likes to have order and things processed and have things where it's difficult to do that when there really isn't a process in place for you to put. It's not, you can't put the process in place. So your brain constantly goes, how can I fix? What can I do? And I'm a fixer, you know, that's my name. I need a support group. I'm a fixer. Give me a problem. I'm going to fix it. Okay. So it's hard to realize sometimes you just can't fix stuff. You can't. And sometimes you're not made to fix it. That's when the trust comes in. I can't do it, but God can fix it. So I often have to put that, check myself and say, let that person that likes to fix, that person likes order, stop a minute and just wait. Take a minute and step back. Take a minute, step back and let God talk to you, seek counsel, whatever you need to do to figure out what the process is, not what the answer is. To figure out what the process is, because you may not get to the answer till you're through the process. So you kind of do that. And then the other thing I was thinking of, you know, practicality stuff kicks in for me too. When you have kids that are calling you, mommy, 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 two wonderful children I had, but sometimes demanded a lot of attention, like mommy, mom. And I want to have this discussion for anybody who's a parent who may be dealing with that now. You know, I can't get a minute for myself. You know, one of the things I would use for both of my children was say, okay, I know what you have to say is really important, but if you give me 5 minutes to finish this, I promise I'll get back to you. Okay. Now, that validated their feelings and validated the importance of what they had to say, but also put boundaries around my time. And say, I can't do this right now, but give me 5 minutes. Now, most times I would go back 5 minutes, 10 minutes later. Okay, what'd you have to say? Oh, I don't know.
Right. Wow.
Mommy, we can talk later.
Exactly. And that taught me a lesson that sometimes things feel like crisis when actually they really are not. If you just give it some time to separate. And that's a lesson I learned with children. If you separate it from something, it just works its way out. It does. It does.
Yeah, you said something really nice too about just like process, you know, and some of us are so impatient that we feel like everything has to have an answer now. Everything has to be fixed now. Everything has to be done now. And then we're burnt out. And someone I heard, I don't remember who shared this with me, was saying like when you reach burnout, you never quite go back to where you were before you reach that point. How it's so important not to let yourself reach that breaking point. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we are processing where we are, what our bodies are telling us, what our mind is telling us. So we don't reach that point where we're like, I'm done, you know, and then sink into depression and anxiety because we haven't paid enough attention to the indicators that we were already at our tipping point, right? Like irritability, super frustrated, agitated easily, tired and exhausted. And we just keep going like our bodies are not telling us, please stop. I cannot go anywhere without some sleep. You know, and we're like, no, we got to push ourselves. It's a societal thing. It's cultural. It's something about, you know, just how we are as a society now with the hustle, and social media presents this picture that hustle, you know, you can stay up, do this.
Yep. Because people make being busy so attractive.
Yes.
Like that's the goal in life. Be busy all the time and never have a minute for anything else. That's not the goal in life.
No.
Because we get burnt out and we can't ignore that irritability that lasts more than a day, or that headache that's been around for 5 days. All of those things are indicators that we need to break away and just rest.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
and if you have a question, if you can go ahead and drop that in the comment section, we will address those.
Mhm.
When I talk about spiritual rest, we know, of course, Reverend Tiffany, you said earlier that the Bible says that rest can be found in God.
Mhm.
And when I talk about spiritual rest, I'm talking about, of course, all of those practical things, but also us breaking away to
Yeah.
just simply sit in the presence of the Lord.
Mhm.
And guess what? Sometimes you break away to sit in the presence of the Lord, and He don't even say nothing, but you're still in His presence. You know how you have something going on in life, and it's very trying for you, and you may have that one person in your life that if you could get to them, they have this calm that they bring about you, that they
Mhm.
help you navigate through your feelings. Well, think about that person, and then think about how God wants to do that on a even greater level,
Right.
right? So
Beautifully
that
said.
rest can only be found in Him. And we cannot, I say this all the time, we cannot be afraid when we're talking to God to tell Him how we really feel.
Mhm.
Not in a King James version. God, I'm mad. God, I'm
Yep.
disappointed.
Yep.
Mhm.
Right? Because that's liberating for us.
Mhm.
And here's
Mhm.
the thing I tell people all the time. He already knows how we're feeling anyway.
Mhm.
Right?
Yep.
So we're trying to hide our true feelings from Him. And He's saying, part of your spiritual rest and breaking away to be in my presence is you telling me everything that you're feeling, good, bad, or indifferent.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I think that's something that we all have to learn to do on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Mhm. And just trust. I mean, I go to my brain, goes to practical stuff, but again, I used to be a person young in my life years ago. I was uncomfortable with silence.
Yep.
Silence made me uncomfortable. I felt like I had to fill the space with time, fill the space with conversation, fill the space, and I realized that really spoke more about me than anybody else. So it really
Mm,
goes back to that point. You don't have to fill your space and time with noise.
Mhm.
right.
You don't.
Right.
In my brain, if I wasn't connecting, if I wasn't talking, the person didn't like me, the person wasn't engaged, or I wasn't being engaging enough. So I
Mhm.
wasn't comfortable sitting in silence. And that piece of sitting in silence comes with a self acceptance, but also it comes with your trust, faith, and belief in God, that you don't have to feel silent, and you don't have to feel silence. You can feel silence,
Mm.
because when you feel that, that's for me when God talks to me the most. I don't
Mhm.
have
Right.
to feel it, but I can feel it, because when I
Right.
feel that quiet moment, that's when God often talks to me the most and
Right.
says, okay, fine, I'm going to download something in your brain that you weren't even thinking of.
Yep.
Okay.
That is so
But
true.
if we don't quiet those thoughts, if we don't quiet that noise that we continuously put ourselves in, and so you said earlier, social media makes it difficult because it's 24/7.
Mhm.
We don't silence that, and we don't sit in comfortableness, in sitting in the comfortableness of being silent. Sometimes we miss the download. So let
Mhm.
me encourage, but once again, don't feel it, but feel it.
Mhm.
Feel the silence. Yep.
That's
I
good.
think part of that too comes with like, and you're speaking so beautifully about it and the safety that we have in God in order to rest in Him, right? Because that we have to know who we are and whose we are in order to comfortably go to God and depend on Him to be able to care for us in those moments of silence when we would typically cloud ourselves with distractions and TV, and because we don't feel comfortable dealing with our own emotions sometimes. We would rather be busy, but you need to be able to have a sense of safety and trust, like you said, in God in order to have spiritual rest. Like I think sometimes just about my 6-year-old climbs in the every morning, right next to me, and I'm like, why are you in here? You know, and she was like, I've been in here all night. And I was like, have you? Like, have you put on? She's a ninja. Like, I never know how she ends up. I never hear her. She's like, I've been here all night. And I'm like, oh, let me get out.
Oh my God. You're like, how'd you get in here?
She's
That's
like, I've been
funny.
in here all night. And I'm like, why are you in my bed all the time. And you know what she says to me? She's like, it feels so comfortable and safe here.
Oh,
You know, and she's like, I love laying next to you. And I'm like,
Oh,
you know, like she gets her best rest
yeah.
when she's with her
oh
mom.
my God, I love that.
That's a beautiful analogy.
And
Wonderful analogy.
That really is beautiful.
Her best rest when
It's like
she's
she-
next to you.
Yes. And I feel like if my child understands like there's safety in my mama's presence, right?
Yeah.
Like if we can trust God in that way, like that I can get my best rest in his presence. I can't go anywhere else, but I know that in his presence,
Yeah.
I feel safe. I feel comforted.
That was perfect. That was beautiful.
That was the benediction right there.
That's it.
Best
Take a collection. We're done.
What's your cash app? That is so true.
Yeah.
That's rest you can get in his presence if we would just trust him that he can provide that safety for us.
Why do you think we find it so hard to trust him though, especially during difficult times?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because we're wound up in the busyness of what problem we perceive that we have.
Okay.
You know, so it's hard to get once again to that quiet moment. And I love the visual, Pastor T, that you gave us about crawling up next to mom, but crawling up next to the father. You know, that is beautiful. It was beautiful because if we could physically do that, we would do it. But because there's the physical presence is not there, we have to spiritually get ourselves
right.
And I think that's what keeps us from getting to that peace, because we're so busy in our everyday lives, we don't get to that spiritual piece of it. We don't allow ourselves to get there. We don't. So,
and I think that all goes back to trust. Like, you know, do we really think that God, I guess at the end of the day for me, do you really think that God is big enough to handle what you're troubled by?
Say that again.
And then the other part is, do you really think God is wise enough to have it work out the way he wants it to? Because I don't know about you. We're not gonna always like what outcome God allows. But if we trust him, if we trust him, and I think, you know, unfortunately, y'all, nobody can lay hands on you and say, you got trust. No. It don't happen that way.
that would be really nice.
I would be first in line, right? Right. Trust is built just like in a regular relationship. Trust is built over being intimate, talking to people, you know, learning people, allowing them to learn you. And that's how trust is built. So we can't leave out, we can't say, God, I want to be able to trust you like I know I need to, but then not make ourselves available to his word and to spending time with him, because that's where the trust grows.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the bottom line is, all of us, no believer on the face of this earth is exempt from storms. None of us. None of us. And I think, you know, I think sometimes we're trying to get ready for the storm while we're in the storm. Like you're waiting for the bus is coming and you just getting dressed, running to the bus. No. We need to prepare for the storm, prepare for peace.
Yep.
Prepare for war in times of peace.
Yep.
It's so true. It's so true. And maybe to your point, Pastor P, you know, how people have like past histories of disappointment and setbacks and things that have happened in the past and issues with your parents in the past. Sometimes it's hard to trust and really like walk into this uncertainty. And that's what faith and trust is, right? It's, you know, full and utter dependency on God. And some of us, because we have to have so much control, are afraid to let go and be that vulnerable in God's presence and rest in him, because we want to be able to, I want to be able to predict the outcome. So I'm giving myself to you, Lord. Am I going to get what I'm asking you for?
Right.
It's a very conditional, and our relationship with God a lot of times is, you know, it's not true trust. It's a relationship of convenience as opposed to true growth and trust in him. You know, it's I love the Lord, but I've been praying, I've been tithing, sowing, doing this, doing that, and what, you know, when's it gonna be my turn? I'm like, huh? You know, we can. Oh my gosh, as believers, sometimes we could be so selfish.
Oh my God, I know God be like, you better be glad I love you.
You better sit down.
Right? Do you know what I've been protecting you from? Do you know what storms and what outcomes you would really have if it wasn't for me keeping you each and every day? And we're just believing I didn't get the car I wanted, I didn't get the house I wanted, I'm not married yet. I don't have oh my God, it's so hard for us to rest and relax, just chill out.
And then some of us, I think some of us just like to keep that going because that's all we know. And like you said, Reverend Tiffany, if depending on what kind of culture or environment you grew up in, you know, in some families, they're just used to drama and there's always something going on. And I think sometimes as adults, we have to say, you know what, that is not really God's will for my life. And if it takes a while if we're having a hard time getting through what happened to us as a child that's impeding us from trusting God now, there's nothing wrong with therapy. To help us unpack those things and show us how to think in a more healthy way. It's nothing wrong with therapy. Not, you know, we always say this on this panel that we can be saved and praise the Lord and still have therapy. Still have a counselor, because I think that's very needful. And I get that, you know, if we grew up in a culture where it's like, what happens in this house stays in this house. I get that you don't want everybody to know your business, but you need to talk to somebody. With some things that has happened in our lives, there's some need to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. And sometimes you have to tell someone, you know, I love you too much to allow you to stay in your dysfunction. I love you. We'll get through it together and we'll work through it together and I'll do whatever I can support you, but I'm not going to let you live in that anymore. I'm not. And that person will often challenge and no, I'm not. Okay, well then is your life going the way you want it to go? Think about it, you know, and that is sometimes the greatest love that we can show someone is to not live in their dysfunction.
And tell them the truth.
And tell them the truth.
Tell them the truth, girl. Yes, you are bitter. And yes, you do find something wrong with everything in life. I love you, but yes, you do. Because I mean, you know, mature people would want somebody in their lives that's going to tell them the truth. And even if it stings for a little bit, we need to know the truth.
We have to be challenged, you know.
Absolutely.
You have to be challenged. When I was today, when I was I had like back-to-back counseling sessions and I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm so tired. You know how you just need that rest. And I was like, and I looked at the clock, I was like, oh, it's only 3 o'clock. I was like, oh my God, I have no more energy left. And I was spent and I was like, oh, you know what? So I had a little brief moment to go to walk to the lake across the parking lot and kind of like took a like little lap around and prayed to God. And sometimes we take for granted like those small moments that we stillness. And when you have an opportunity just to connect with God, even if it's brief, like do what you got to do, refresh and reset. Because we don't always have, sometimes we don't always have the time or the space or to dedicate a full hour or several hours to it. But what can you do to take a brief pause to connect to God and find some spiritual and physical and mental rest? Because it's something that all of us have to make sure is embedded in our day.
Every day.
On a consistent basis.
And that's really, because I know we have to get ready to go, but we started off talking about relationship, that you don't have to speak with the scriptures and King James. It really is about relationship and together, you know, God, I am not feeling it today. Okay, you know, and just relationship and just talk to God. And that's the stuff that forms to me the closeness that we need in those quiet moments, because God is used to hearing your voice and
Yeah.
you're used to talking to him. So
Yeah.
it really is just forming that relationship, and it doesn't have to look, sound, or be anyway, but what between you and God.
That's it. That's it. So that's the takeaway, to learn to be intentional about resting, meaning getting in the presence of the Lord, venting your emotions, telling him about how you feel, whether it sounds good or not. You know, we can't be, God knows it already, so we might as well just tell him what he already knows. And for me, and then here's the thing, we don't want to make you believe that once you do that, all of your problems are going to go away, or whatever you're facing is going to go away. You may go right back to the same situation, but I believe that you go back differently when you learn to sit in the presence of the Lord. Any final comments, ladies? Because our time here is up. It goes so fast.
Yeah, I think you said it. I think you ended beautifully,
I
Red.
think that was it. Between that analogy and that together, I'm good.
All right. Well, we are glad that you were able to tune in. Again, if you just tuned in, you can go ahead and share this broadcast. If you are watching the replay, you can also comment and share the broadcast. And we will see you back here. We're here every second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m., different topic. And if you have a topic you would like for us to discuss, you can go ahead and send that in, and we will consider all of those topics. So y'all have a good night. Yay. And we'll see you again the second Thursday in October.
Yes.
All right.
Everybody.